Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be going through all the books that I read in December. And y'all, I got stats now. Woo, go me. We got stats. Righty. So, in the month of December, yeah, December was rough. Guys, December was so rough. I struggled with reading in December. I lost a little bit of my, I want to say reading bug because with stitching we call it stitchy bug, but I lost a little bit of that hyper focus with reading. I started gaming. Okay, I started gaming and it's been fun. November, I read 15 books. So we're down a little bit. I read 10 books in December, which isn't terrible, but it's a little low for me. I DNF'd, I think, so much. What did I DNF this month? I don't know. I think I DNF'd 3. Oh, my list is all fucked up. Cool. 1, 2, 3, 4? Frick! Read 10 books. DNF'd 4. My total pages read was 4,315. My average pages per day was 140. And my most read genre of the month was romance, which is weird because I'm in a fantasy mood. But whatever. It is what it is. First book that I completed was Nettle and Bone by Kingfisher. I gave this one 3.5 stars. I did really enjoy it. This one was fantasy. There wasn't really like any romance in it. It was more found family, fantasy, a little bit of adventure. The world was crazy interesting. It had like a gothic vibe to it. It was kind of a creepy world. So we're following our main character, Mara. She is on a quest to save her sister from basically an evil prince slash king. He becomes king in the process of that. So she's on like this quest through a god witch, grave witch. That's what it is. She's on a quest from a grave witch. And she basically has like 3 things that she's got to do for the grave witch. One of them is to like make a dog out of bones, which she succeeds. We legit have a dog bone that comes to life. Spends the entire book with us. I loved the dog, the dog bone. Bone dog. I loved the bone dog. I think she even names it Bone Dog. And she has like a godmother that she meets and then a knight, a random knight. Once she completes the 3 quests from the grave witch, they all go on a quest to save her sister from this prince king. It was fun. I really liked it. 3.5 stars. I'm going to group these next 2 books together. I've got Saving 6 and Redeeming 6. I gave them both 5 stars. What are you going to do? Those 2 books are Joey and Aoife's story. We rewind time from the Binding 13. We rewind it to whenever Joey's about 12. And I think in Binding and Keeping 13, Joey's around like 17, 18. So we rewind time a little bit and we're going through Joey's life. It's extremely damaging. It's extremely traumatic. And it shattered my mom heart. I looked at my monitor while my kiddo was sleeping while reading that book so many times because it was the only thing that made me feel better. This series has a ton of child abuse in it, which is why it broke my mama heart. But the story is so good. Aoife is a main female character. Aoife has to be like my favorite main female character, probably of all time. I adored her. She was so spunky and just headstrong, take no shit. That series is set in Ireland. It's the 3rd and 4th book of the series. We've got our first 2 are Binding and Keeping 13, which is Johnny and Shannon's story. I'm not explaining this well. I never do. It's so hard to explain this series. Just check your trigger warnings. It's a good one. Next up, I've got 2 DNFs, I think. After reading Saving and Redeeming 6, I attempted to do a continuing series vlog. I unfortunately scrapped the vlog. I was so bummed about it. I really want to give myself time in the future that if I DNF a book in the vlog, that I pick out another book and I have time to actually read it. I felt bad because I DNF'd 2 out of the 3 books. So I was like, what's the point of posting it? And then I struggled through the 3rd one. So we didn't post the vlog. Anyway, my next one that I attempted to read, but I DNF'd it, was Next to You by Bonam-Young. This is the 2nd one in the Next to series. What's it called? Next. It's just called Next. So it's the 2nd one in the Next series. The 1st one was called Next of Kin. I adored Next of Kin. I thought that one was so cute. I really love Bonam-Young's writing style. So I was very surprised whenever I was not digging next to you. I will preface this by saying that I'm going to give this one a second chance. At some point, it's marked as a DNF for now, but I would like to go back and try it again because I read it after saving and redeeming 6. Can you say book hangover? Like, book hangover, book slump, book hangover. Sometimes a good book just makes it so difficult to move on from. And I tend to DNF the most books after reading like a favorite. So next to you, I think I made it about 100 pages into it before I just wasn't feeling it, and I DNF'd it. It's a Friends to Lovers where she buys a bus and he helps her renovate it. I was bored, but I just came off of redeeming 6, which was so much going on that anything else was boring. So I don't know if it's really the book's fault or just my timing. So we're going to try it again at some point. I'm going to do a video sometime this year giving some of my DNFs a second chance because sometimes you just read a book at the wrong time. And I think that was the case in this one. Plus December was nuts. So the next book was also in that vlog as well that I scrapped, and it was The Perfect Catch by Meghan Quinn. I love Meghan Quinn. I was not vibing with this one. This kind of storyline, for some reason, I just never really vibed with. I've read them, and they're okay, but they're not really my favorite. Didn't really intrigue me that much. It's like the sports worker that works with, like, the publicist. I don't know why. It's just kind of meh. So that's the case in this one. We've got a baseball player. I'm pretty sure he's a baseball player. And he is a bad boy. He's ruined his reputation. He has to have a publicist. The main female character in this one tended to have more chemistry with her best friend. And I don't even like friends to lovers that much. That's like one of my least favorite tropes. And he was the a-hole, so it was like an enemies to lovers. I was bored. I don't know if I'm going to give this one a second chance or not. I was pretty bored with it. I'm kind of good with like just calling this one good and done. It was the 8th book in this series. It was the last and final book. I'm ready to just move on. I wasn't digging it. I don't know how far I got into it. Maybe around 100 pages. That's about what I give books. I give it between like 70 and 100 pages before I'm like, I'm not vibing. Move on. Next, I read Taming 7, also part of that continuing series. Last book that's been released in the Boys of Tommen series. This book made me sad. It did. I was looking forward to this one. I fully went into it thinking I was going to give it 5 stars. I was utterly obsessed with the first 4 books, and this one just was not as good. It just wasn't. I gave it 3 stars. Honestly, I struggled through it. It's the smallest out of all of them, and I was grateful. I know a lot of people said they didn't get enough, and it's the weirdest feeling. I couldn't wait for this to be over, but I also felt like we didn't get enough. Make that make sense? I'll explain. This one's Claire and Gipsy's story, and we spent too much time on other people. We spent so much time on Johnny and Shannon and on Joey and Eva, and while I love them, it's not their book. Like, they had their time. They had a lot of time. And we spent a bunch of time about how perfect their relationships were, and I'm like, okay, I'm over it now. I read their story. I know their relationship is perfect. I know they're going to last. Let's move on. And then besides that, you guys, the Lizzie drama in this drove me freaking nuts. I got so tired of hearing about the Lizzie drama. I feel like that could have been reduced to like 2 scenes and it would have been just the same. We didn't get enough Claire and Gipsy. They got gypped. They did. I gave it 3 stars because I do truly love the characters. At this point in the series, like, my heart is with them. Like, I love these characters so much. And it's the only reason why I pushed through. Because everything else was driving me absolutely crazy. The main drama in this, I mean, it broke my heart. Gipsy's stuff broke my heart. I was not expecting it. I feel like it kind of was out of left field. You didn't really like see it coming. Like in the first few books, the first 2 was really like where Gipsy was prevalent. And you just didn't see that. Like, you didn't see any indication of all the trauma. So I don't know if this was something that was like developed in the author's mind later, or if she always planned to do it this way, but I don't know. I was sad about this one. 3 stars. Next. After that, I was like, okay, my continuing series vlog absolutely failed. So let's try to do a Christmas book vlog. December was not my month for vlogging. It just wasn't. So we tried it. We failed at it, but we tried it. We did. We didn't DNF. No, wait. We did. We did. We DNF'd one. Shoot. Sorry. I started out my Christmas book vlog attempting to read Lovelight Farms by BK Borison. Y'all, I had so much like random good footage of like me cooking and stuff. Scrapped. All of it scrapped. I meal prepped. I cooked dinner. Scrapped it all. Anyway, Lovelight Farms. I wasn't digging it. I don't even remember what it was about, but I wasn't connecting. I think it was like fake dating. I don't know why I couldn't get invested. It's like two best friends that fake date, something about a Christmas tree farm. Going into that book, I was like, I'm going to read this book now, and then I'll read the spring book in the spring, and I'll read the fall book in the fall, and the summer book, in between. Fail. DNF book 1. Damn. I don't know if I'll retry that one. Next. So after I DNF'd Lovelight Farms, I did continue to record and attempt to read a couple more Christmas books. I read 2 novellas. I did complete them. But I just wasn't feeling it. By the time that I got done with that, I'm like, I don't want to read an actual full Christmas book. I was December was just too much for me, and I was not in a holly jolly mood, so we scrapped it. The next one that I read was Cruel Winter with You by Ali Hazelwood. It's a shorty. I think it was only 70 pages. I did really like it. I gave it 4 stars. Ali Hazelwood definitely has a talent for making you feel for the characters and connect to the characters in such a short amount of time. Our main characters came together in a blizzard by accident. They were like childhood friends, and then they became kind of enemies, and then they were brought back together, and obviously it's a love story. Somehow she fit in connection to the characters, but also their history in 70 pages, and it was adorable. I did really enjoy this one. And then I read Merry Ever After by Tessa Bailey. I did not like this book. I gave it 1 star. I almost DNF'd it, but at that point I'd already DNF'd 3 books. I think 3. And so I did not want to DNF another one. I actually returned it halfway through and then borrowed it again. I'm like, it's 50 pages, just finish it. 59 pages. It's not very long. Just complete it. Spend an hour, just read it. I probably should have just DNF'd it. I actually skimmed. I don't ever skim a book. I skimmed on this one. It had some very cringy, spicy scenes that I skimmed through. I've learned with this book that Tessa Bailey is no longer an author for me. I used to love her books. I read a lot of them in the last 5 years or so. I've read quite a few of her books, and her writing style has just gotten a little bit too cringy for me, and it's a little too spicy for me. And I'm fine with the spice, but it's very cringy. I didn't feel like there was enough depth in this one, which it's only 60 pages, but I don't know. I didn't dig it. It's about a chick that is running a shop. I don't think it's her shop. And a big giant dude comes in looking for pants. And she makes him pants. And she's a single mom. And it was essentially just he's big. And he really likes her. And weirdly enough, it gave me me Tarzan, you Jane vibes. So after I got done with those, I moved on to my TBR. So I read the Dagger and the Flame next. And I enjoyed this one. I gave it 3.5 stars. It's so hard to go back in time. Even though this one was a more recent read, it's so hard to remember what each book that you read was about. This one starts out with Seraphine and her mom. Her mom ends up getting assassinated, and so she has to essentially go to the cloaks to survive. She has to become a cloak, which is basically a thief, and she has a hit on her by the daggers. And a dagger is an assassin. So our main male character is the dagger that is trying to kill her. And she is essentially trying to survive this. And then she finds out she's got magic. It was a fun young adult romantasy. I enjoyed it. 3.5 stars. Moving on. The next one that I read was Fireborne. I was going to read this entire series in December. Did that happen? No. I read book 1. I didn't like Fireborne that much. And I fully went into it thinking that I was going to enjoy it. I mean, do we go into any book thinking that we're going to hate it? I guess. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. I liked it. No, I didn't like it. I gave it 2 stars. This book is about Annie and Lee, and they're both orphans. Um, I'm trying really hard to differentiate this book from The Will of the Many because I read The Will of the Many after it, and it kind of has some similarities, but The Will of the Many was done better. So Lee's family was royalty, and his whole entire family was murdered. Um, and they didn't rule in the best way. They were a bit cruel. And then the new people are also not ruling in the best way. I mean, who does? Power gets to everybody. We've got dragon writing in this, and Lee kind of works his ranks up to try to get to be first writer. And yeah, that's it. And then there's like a rebellion that happens between the survivors of his family that he doesn't know they're still alive till later. I didn't connect to this one. There wasn't a whole lot of like depth to it. It was definitely fantasy with a side of romance, which is fine. I don't mind that. But I just didn't feel any depth. I felt like all of the most like exciting parts of this were kind of cut out. Like we would transition over to Annie's point of view right whenever Lee was going to do something fun or something interesting. And a lot of that stuff was just kind of cut out. We had a few interesting scenes, but a lot of it was boring. I was kind of bored with this one. So, because of that, I have decided that I'm not continuing this series. I finished it because I didn't want to have any more DNFs for the month. So, after that, I had a DNF. I attempted to read The Boy I Grew Up With, which was on my TBR. And I didn't make it that far in this one. I think I made it like 70, 80 pages. This one, you could definitely tell that there was more to it that you weren't really getting. And so I like was reading some reviews because I just kind of felt like I was like missing stuff a little bit. And this was a spinoff off of like another series that you really got a lot of character development. I'm like, huh. Well, I don't really want to go back and read that series. And this one is a very old book on my TBR. I was kind of just fine with letting it go. So I wasn't connecting all that much. And I felt like we were missing some character development from like side characters. I felt like this would have been much better had I read the other series. Um, I didn't really understand the side characters, and I think you're supposed to. I think it's fine as a standalone. I think it probably would have worked, but I wanted more depth, and I didn't want to go back and read the other ones. So I just let it go. I DNF'd it. So then I read The Will of the Many, and I gave The Will of the Many 4 stars. I fully went into that one thinking that it would be a 5-star because everybody is obsessed with this book, and I enjoyed it. Was I obsessed? No, but I did like it. This book, oh, it broke my brain. I read this, I think I started reading this one a few days before Christmas, and it took me like a solid week to week and a half to complete this book. I had to take this one in small chunks, and I generally don't feel that way about books. I had like a goal. I had like a 50-page a day goal to complete this book. I definitely did not get sucked into it. I was fine with letting it go after 50 pages and kind of just setting it aside till the next day. Because it was confusing. Yo, this book broke my brain. And I was reading it during a very stressful time. If I were to go back, I would definitely not choose this book for December. Because I had a lot going on right as Christmas and New Year's and days off with my kiddo and a lot of plans going on. And yeah, I think I would have chose a different month, a more lax month to read that. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. I read it in December. But I did like it. I do plan to read book 2. Alrighty, we are much later in the evening. My camera died. Right at the end of that, I had literally one more book and I was explaining like my second to last book. So close. So my camera died right as I was explaining what The Will of the Many was about, which really sucks because that's kind of a hard one to explain. So let's do it again. It's about this who is an orphan that gets adopted by somebody that's higher up in the hierarchy. This isn't in the hierarchy. He denied it. So he gets adopted by somebody, and this Quintus, I think is his name. So he wants Fist to go into the academy to try to figure out what happened to his brother. His brother died in the academy, and he wants to figure out the mystery. So this is actually from royalty, but his family was killed off by the hierarchy whenever they took over, which is really similar to Fireborne, which is kind of funny. It has so many similarities to Fireborne, but it was done so much better. Anyway, it's Fist's job to scale up in the academy, advance as much as he can. He's got to impress his teachers to be able to advance. There's different levels to the academy. There's like 7 levels. You start at the bottom, level 7, and you work your way up. And it's his job to advance to at least level 3 and to be able to get access to find out some information. The hierarchy itself is a government essentially, but it's also like a magical system where it's literally a hierarchy of people. The bottom feeds the will to the next level, and so on and so on. It's 8 levels long. The one at the top gets the most will from literally everybody in their tree. Will essentially is strength, but it can also be used to power different things in their society. So certain things can be powered by will, such as like a transvact, which is like a taxi, like an electronic taxi. So that part was super interesting. I did really enjoy that. This book was just very confusing at times. It took a lot of brain power to read. And so that's why I only really read it for about like my goal for it was 50 pages a day, just because it just took so much brain power to read. And my head kind of hurt after a little bit of it. So that's essentially what it's about. And the ending was intense and it was so confusing. I didn't really like the ending, to be honest. Like, it had a lot going on. I was folding clothes while listening to the ending, so I don't know if I caught everything that I needed to catch. I think I should have been like actively reading this part because there was so much that happened in a short amount of time. One major thing happens that pissed me off. And then a lot of other stuff that happens that I was just like, what? Crazy confused. Crazy confused. So that's The Will of Many. I don't know if I told you what my stars for it was, but if I didn't, I gave it 4 stars. I definitely enjoyed it. I will be reading book 2, but it made me scratch my head. I think I only had one more book that I read. I don't have my spreadsheet in front of me anymore. I did it earlier. But the last book that I read for December was The Love Wager by Lynn Painter. I think I gave this one 3.5 stars. I definitely enjoyed this one. It was really cute. I like Lynn Painter's writing. I liked that this one was not high school students. I just finished a Lynn Painter book today, actually, that was high school students, and I feel old. I am not in high school. I am 15 years out of high school. So, oh my God, I'm more than 15 years out of high school. No, I'm 15 years. I'm like 15 years out of high school, so it was very unrelatable to me. The other book, The Love Wager, was not about high school students, so I did appreciate that. It was about our 2 characters, so I don't remember their names. I don't have my stuff in front of me anymore. I will put it in editing what their names were because my brain's blanking at this point. It's the end of the day. I recorded 3 videos today, and it's the very end of the day. My camera died. Yeah, it's yeah, we're just trying to finish it up before I have to wait a whole nother week. Anyway, our 2 main characters, they meet at a wedding and they have a one night stand. They have a ton of chemistry, and then that's all it is. She sneaks out, he lets her sneak out, and then later on they reconnect on a dating app where she is adamant that she does not like him, she does not want to date him, and he kind of just goes with it. So they're basically adamant to each other the whole time that they are just friends. They do not want to date. They do not like each other like that. Um, and the only reason why they have chemistry is because they had a one night stand. So then they make a wager with each other that whoever falls in love first via the dating app, that they will win prospectively something from the other. So I think she wins a vacation and he would win a baseball from her, a signed baseball by like all of the Cubs signed it, I think. I can't remember. So during the process of them going on dates with, prospective people, it usually ends badly. Then afterward, they go get tacos with each other and they develop a very deep friendship. This one's essentially like a one night stand to friends to lovers. It was cute. Friends to lovers isn't really my favorite trope though, so I just thought it was cute. I hope I didn't miss any. I'm fairly certain that that's all I had in December. That wraps this video up. I'm sorry that I'm in front of my vanity for the end of it.
it just, camera. I need more batteries. I'm still a newbie into this, and I'm still acquiring equipment, and one of the things that I need to buy is additional batteries. And I also was not alerted that my camera was dying. It just died, and I didn't know where it cut off. But anyway, that wraps up what I read in December. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Please stick around. Let's be friends, and thank you so much for watching. Bye!